The slap echoed like a gunshot through Betty's diner. 76-year-old Ethel Washington stood frozen, her church hat spinning across the linoleum floor. The restaurant manager's hand was still raised. Someone's phone was recording, and in that terrible silence, Ethel didn't scream or curse or cry. She looked at the woman who'd just struck her and whispered words that would change everything. God forgive you, child. Within hours, that video would reach millions. Within days, it would bring 20 Harleys roaring into this quiet Georgia town. And the man leading them, a Hells Angels chapter president with murder in his eyes, would walk into that same diner and say 5 words that made the whole room go cold. Before we dive into this incredible story, please hit that subscribe button and stay with us until the very end. Drop a comment telling us what city you're watching from. We love seeing how far these stories travel. Now let's begin. The morning started like any other Tuesday in Ridgeville, Georgia. Ethel Washington had been up since 5 a.m., the way she'd been for 60 years. She made her coffee, read her Bible on the porch, and watched the sun paint the sky pink over the pine trees. At 76, her hands shook a little more than they used to, but her faith never wavered. Lord, watch over this town today, she prayed like always. Especially those who don't know they need watching over. She had no idea she was praying for herself. By 9 a.m., Ethel was at Betty's Diner on Main Street, the same place she'd eaten breakfast every Tuesday for 30 years. The bell above the door jingled as she walked in. The usual crowd was there. Frank, the retired postal worker, the Hendersons from the hardware store, young Marcus, who worked nights at the plant. They all knew Miss Ethel. Everyone did. "Morning, Miss Ethel," called out Rosa, the longtime waitress. "Your usual table's ready." But Rosa looked worried. Her eyes kept darting toward the kitchen. "Everything all right, honey?" Ethel asked, settling into her booth by the window. Rosa leaned in close. "New manager started last week. She's having a rough time of it." Ethel nodded. She'd heard Betty had finally retired, sold the place to some corporation out of Atlanta. The new owner had sent in their own people. Change was hard. Ethel knew that better than most. "Well, the Lord gives us strength for hard times," Ethel said, patting Rosa's hand. "I'll have the usual, dear." Rosa hurried off, but Ethel could feel the tension in the air. The kitchen doors kept swinging open and shut. Voices were raised back there. Not quite yelling, but close. A few minutes later, a woman Ethel had never seen before came out with her plate. She was young, maybe 35, with dark circles under her eyes and her name tag hanging crooked: Samantha Reeves, manager. "Here." Samantha practically dropped the plate on the table. Eggs, grits, bacon. But the fork was crusted with old food. Ethel looked at it, then up at the young woman. "Excuse me, honey. Could I get a clean fork, please?" It was a simple request, polite, the kind of thing that happened 100 times a day in restaurants everywhere. But Samantha just stared at her. "Are you serious right now?" Samantha's voice was sharp. "You're complaining about a fork." The diner started to go quiet. Conversations dropped off. Frank looked over from his coffee. "I'm not complaining, dear," Ethel said gently. "I'm just asking. I've been here since 4 a.m. Samantha's hands were shaking. "I've got 3 people out sick, the freezer's broken, and we're behind on every single order. And you want to complain about a fork?" "I wasn't complaining," Ethel repeated, her voice still calm. "I was just... You people are all the same." Samantha's voice rose. "Nothing's ever good enough. Always looking for something to..." She caught herself. Her face went red, but the words hung in the air like smoke. Ethel felt something cold settle in her chest. She'd heard those words before, different versions of them, her whole life. "Miss," Ethel said quietly, "I don't want any trouble. I just want a clean fork." The whole diner was watching now. Marcus had stood up from his booth. Rosa was frozen by the register. Samantha's hands curled into fists. Her face twisted with something ugly, exhaustion. Yes, but something darker too. Something that had probably been building for days, maybe weeks, maybe years. "You want a clean fork?" Samantha's voice dropped low. Dangerous. "You want a clean fork." What happened next took maybe 2 seconds, but Ethel would remember it in slow motion for the rest of her life. Samantha's hand came up fast. The crack of palm against cheek echoed through the diner like a whip. Ethel's head snapped to the side. Her church hat, the blue one she'd worn for 37 years, the one her late husband James had bought her, flew off and spun across the floor. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Ethel's hand came up to touch her cheek. It was already burning. She could feel the shape of Samantha's fingers and the heat on her skin. The young woman stood there, breathing hard, her hand still raised. Her eyes were wide, like she couldn't believe what she'd just done. The silence was absolute. Then Ethel spoke. Her voice was soft, barely above a whisper, but in that silence, everyone heard it. God forgive you, child. That's when the phone came out. A teenage girl 3 booths over had been recording the whole thing. Her hands were shaking as she held up her screen. "Oh my God," the girl whispered. "Oh my God, I got it. I got all of it." Samantha seemed to wake up. She looked around the diner at all the faces staring at her, at Rosa crying by the register, at Marcus moving toward them, at Frank already on his phone, probably calling the police. "I didn't," Samantha started. I didn't mean, but there was nothing she could say, nothing that would undo the last 30 seconds. Ethel bent down slowly, her knees aching, and picked up her hat. She brushed it off with trembling fingers. Then she looked at Samantha, really looked at her, and Samantha saw something in those old eyes that was worse than anger. It was pity. "I forgive you," Ethel said. Then she walked out of the diner with her head high, leaving her untouched breakfast and the whole shocked room behind her. By the time Ethel got home, her phone was already ringing. Her neighbor Sarah was the first to call. "Ethel, honey, are you all right? I just saw there's a video." Then her pastor, then her sister in Alabama, then people she hadn't talked to in years. The video was everywhere. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. That teenage girl had uploaded it within minutes, and it had spread like wildfire. Ethel sat in her living room, her cheeks still stinging, and watched her phone light up again and again. She didn't watch the video. She didn't need to. She'd lived it. What she didn't know was that the video was about to reach someone 500 miles away, someone who hadn't spoken to her in 5 years, someone who'd sworn he was done with her and her God and her forgiveness and all of it, someone who'd see that video and everything would change. In South Carolina, in a compound outside Charleston, the Hells Angels clubhouse was doing what it did every Tuesday afternoon. Music playing, beer flowing, brothers working on bikes or playing pool or just shooting the shit. It was family time, the only family some of them had. Marcus Diesel Washington sat at the bar going over the books. At 48, he'd been with the Angels for 26 years. He'd earned his patch, earned his ink, earned respect the hard way. Now, he ran the Charleston Chapter 37 members, all of them looking to him for leadership. He was a big man, 6'4", 260 pounds of muscle and scarred knuckles and tattoos that told a life story. His beard was going gray now. His hands bore the marks of 1,000 fights. Those hands had built engines and broken bones. They'd held his brothers when they cried and held weapons when they had to. They'd done things he wasn't proud of and things he'd do again without hesitation. But they'd never held his mama's hand. Not in 5 years. "Yo, Diesel!" A younger brother named Jake came over, phone in hand. "You gotta see this. It's blowing up." "Not now," Diesel said, not looking up from the ledger. "Nah, man, seriously, this is fucked up." Something in Jake's voice made Diesel look up. The kid's face was pale. "What?" Jake handed over his phone. "Just watch." And Diesel took the phone. The video started playing. A diner, an old black woman asking for something, a white woman getting angry. And then, the slap. Diesel's whole body went rigid. He watched the old woman's hat fly off, watched her hand come up to touch her cheek, watched her look at the camera with those eyes he'd know anywhere. "God forgive you, child." The phone cracked in Diesel's hand. He didn't realize he'd squeezed it until plastic bit into his palm. "Diesel," Jake said carefully. "You good man." Diesel couldn't speak. He watched it again, and again. Each time the rage built higher in his chest, hotter in his blood. That was his mama. His mama who'd raised him alone after his daddy died in Vietnam. His mama who'd worked 3 jobs to keep him fed. His mama who'd cried when he got his first tattoo and cried harder when he went to prison the first time. His mama who'd stood by him through everything until 5 years ago when he'd told her he was done with her Jesus talk, done with her preaching, done with the whole forgiveness thing that had never done him any good. They'd had the fight to end all fights. He'd said things. She'd said things. And he'd walked out and never looked back. 5 years. He hadn't called, hadn't visited, hadn't even sent a birthday card. And now some white woman had put her hands on her. Diesel, Jake's voice seemed far away. Diesel, man, you're bleeding. Diesel looked down. The broken phone had cut his palm. Blood dripped onto the bar. He stood up. The whole room felt it, that shift in the air that meant trouble was coming. Church, Diesel said. His voice was cold, flat. Right now, everyone. Within minutes, the whole chapter was crowded into the meeting room. 37 men in leather vests, all of them sensing something big was about to go down. Diesel stood at the head of the table. He didn't sit, couldn't. That video everyone's seeing, he said. That's my mama. The room went dead silent. The woman who got hit, that's Ethel Washington. That's my mother. Most of them knew he had a mama somewhere. Most of them knew they didn't talk. But seeing Diesel like this, seeing the barely controlled fury in his eyes, that was new. We riding. That was Tommy Diesel's sergeant-at-arms, his oldest friend. The man who'd stood beside him through wars, both literal and metaphorical. Diesel looked at him, at all of them. Yeah, he said quietly. We're riding. Pack for a few days. We leave at dawn. Nobody questioned it. This was family business. And in the club, family came first. But Tommy caught Diesel's arm as the room cleared out. Brother, you haven't seen her in 5 years. I know. You said you were done with all that church shit, with her forgiveness talk. I know. So what's the play here? We ride in, do what, beat up some restaurant manager, trash the place. Diesel's jaw worked. I don't know yet. That ain't like you. You always got a plan. The plan is, I ride to my mama's town and I make sure nobody ever puts their hands on her again. Diesel's voice dropped lower. After that, we'll see. Tommy studied his face. She might not want us there. I don't care. She might not want your kind of help. She's getting it anyway. Tommy sighed. All right, brother. I'm with you. We all are. Just don't do something you can't walk back from. Diesel didn't answer, because he knew himself well enough to know that when it came to protecting his mama, there wasn't much he wouldn't do. That night, Ethel couldn't sleep. Her cheek had stopped hurting, but the humiliation hadn't. She kept thinking about all those phones recording, all those people watching, the whole world seeing her get struck down like she was nothing. She prayed, but the words felt hollow. Around midnight, her phone rang again, a number she didn't recognize. Hello? Miss Washington. A young woman's voice, hesitant. My name is Amy Chen. I'm a reporter with Channel 7 News in Atlanta. I was hoping I could talk to you about what happened today. No, thank you, Ethel said. The video has over 10 million views already. People are outraged. They want to hear your story. There's no story. A woman had a bad day and did something she regrets, that's all. You're really going to let her get away with this? Ethel closed her eyes. I'm not letting her get away with anything. I'm letting it go. There's a difference. But she assaulted you. Yes, she did, and I forgive her. There was a long pause. Are you serious? Young lady, I'm 76 years old. I've been black in the South my whole life. I've been called names, denied service, treated like I was less than human more times than I can count. If I held on to every hurt, every slight, every act of hatred, I'd be nothing but poison by now. Ethel's voice was gentle but firm. I choose different. I choose forgiveness. But, thank you for calling, Ethel said, and hung up. But the calls kept coming. Other reporters, activists, people wanting her to press charges, to sue, to make an example. People saying she owed it to her community, to her race, to herself. Ethel turned off her phone and went back to bed. She didn't know that 500 miles away, her son was loading his Harley with enough clothes for a week. that 20 of his brothers were doing the same, that they'd mapped the route and planned to arrive in Ridgeville by tomorrow afternoon. She didn't know that her prayer for peace was about to collide with his hunger for vengeance. And she didn't know that in 3 days this whole thing was going to get a lot more complicated. The next morning, Ridgeville woke up famous. The video had hit the national news. Good Morning America ran it. Fox News ran it. CNN interviewed a sociologist about implicit bias and a pastor about forgiveness. The diner's Yelp page crashed from all the one-star reviews. Someone started a GoFundMe for Ethel that had already raised $50,000. And outside Betty's Diner, a crowd was gathering. Some were protesters with signs "Justice for Ethel." Others were counter-protesters, "Forgiveness, not cancel culture." Local news vans lined the street. A celebrity activist had tweeted about it. Everything spiraled. Inside the diner, Samantha Reeves sat in the back office with her head in her hands. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Death threats, doxing. Someone had found her address and posted it online. Her daughter's school had called saying Lily was being bullied. Her landlord had called saying he wanted her out. Her whole life was ending because of 30 seconds. "Ms. Reeves." The district manager's voice was cold. "We need to talk." Samantha looked up. She'd been crying so hard her eyes were nearly swollen shut. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. I snapped. The company is terminating your employment effective immediately. We'll need your keys and your—" "Please," Samantha stood up. "Please, I have a daughter. I can't lose this job. I'll apologize. I'll do whatever it takes. The decision is final. Pack your things." 20 minutes later, Samantha walked out of Betty's Diner for the last time. The crowd saw her. Someone screamed. Someone threw coffee. She ran to her car with her arms over her head while people shouted and cameras flashed. She made it inside, locked the doors, and just drove. She didn't know where she was going. Away. Anywhere. Her phone rang. Her landlord again. "You're out," he said. "I want you gone by tonight." "But I paid—" "I don't care. I'm not having this circus at my property. You're out." Samantha pulled over and threw up in a gas station parking lot. Everything was gone. Job, home, reputation. All of it. And somewhere in her mind she kept hearing that old woman's voice. "God forgive you, child." Meanwhile, 20 Harleys rolled up I-95 toward Georgia. They rode in formation, 2 columns, perfect spacing hand signals marking every lane change. Diesel led from the front, his mind on nothing but the road and his mama and the woman who'd hit her. Tommy rode beside him, watching his brother's face. He'd known Diesel for 30 years. He'd seen him angry before. But this was different. This was personal in a way that scared even Tommy. They stopped for gas around noon. While the others stretched and smoked, Tommy pulled Diesel aside. "So what's the plan when we get there?" "Find my mama. Make sure she's okay. And then I find that woman from the video." "And do what?" Diesel's silence was answer enough. "Brother," Tommy said carefully, "you can't just roll into some small town and start breaking shit. That ain't who we are no more." "Who says I'm gonna break anything?" "Your face says it. Your hands say it. The way you've been white-knuckling those handlebars for 300 miles says it." Diesel turned to look at him. "My mama got slapped, in front of everybody, for asking for a clean fork. A clean goddamn fork, Tommy." "I know. You got a mama. You know what you'd do if somebody touched her." "Yeah," Tommy admitted. "I do. But I also know your mama wouldn't want you catching a case over her. She'd want you to let it go. Then she shouldn't have raised me to protect what's mine." They got back on the bikes. 2 hours later, they crossed into Georgia. Back in Ridgeville, Ethel was at church. It was Wednesday evening, and despite everything, she wasn't going to miss Bible study. Pastor Reynolds had offered to cancel, but Ethel wouldn't hear of it. "Life goes on," she said simply. But when she walked into the church, half the congregation stood up and applauded. She stopped confused. "Sister Ethel," Pastor Reynolds said, coming down from the pulpit, "you have shown this community, shown this whole country what grace looks like." Ethel shook her head. "I just didn't want to carry hate, Pastor. And that's exactly why you're a light to us all." But not everyone felt that way. As Bible study started, Ethel noticed some of the younger members whispering. Jamal, Marcus's son, raised his hand. Miss Ethel, can I ask you something? Of course, baby. Why'd you forgive her so fast? I mean, she hit you. On camera, and you just let her go. I didn't let her go, honey. I let go. There's a difference. But don't you want justice? I want peace more. A young woman named Keisha spoke up. But Miss Ethel, with all respect, sometimes peace ain't possible until there's justice first. That woman needs to face consequences. Oh, she's facing them, Ethel said quietly. She lost her job, her home. Her whole life is falling apart. Believe me, she's paying for what she did. Good, someone muttered. Ethel's head snapped toward the voice. No, not good. That woman's got a daughter. A little girl who's watching her mama get destroyed. You think that child deserves that? The room went quiet. We like to think forgiveness is weakness, Ethel continued. That holding people accountable means making them suffer. But all that does is multiply pain. Her suffering don't heal my cheek. It just means we're both hurting now. So she just gets away with it, Jamal pressed. No, baby. She has to live with it. That's not the same as getting away with it. Pastor Reynolds nodded. Sister Ethel's right. Forgiveness isn't about the other person. It's about refusing to let their actions poison your soul. But Ethel could see it in their faces, especially the young ones. They didn't understand. They wanted blood. And in about 4 hours, they were going to get their wish, because 20 motorcycles were about to roll into town, and the man leading them hadn't forgiven anything in his entire life. Diesel and his crew pulled into Ridgeville just after sunset. The sound of 20 Harleys rumbling through those quiet streets made every dog in town start barking. People came out on their porches to watch. Some recognized the patch as Hell's Angels and hurried back inside, locking doors. Diesel pulled up outside a small white house on Elm Street. The same house he'd grown up in. The same porch where he'd sat with his daddy before Vietnam took him. The same driveway where he'd learned to ride his first bike. He hadn't been here in 5 years. It looked exactly the same. The bikes idled as Diesel climbed off. Tommy killed his engine, and one by one the others followed suit until the street went quiet. Diesel stood at the end of the driveway staring at the house. Lights were on inside. He could see shadows moving past the windows. His mama was home. You want us to wait here? Tommy asked quietly. Yeah. Diesel's voice was hoarse. Give me a minute. He walked up the driveway slowly. Each step felt heavier than the last. His heart was pounding in a way it never did before a fight. He knocked. Footsteps inside. The curtain in the window moved. Then the door opened. Ethel Washington stood there in her house dress and slippers, her Bible in one hand. She looked smaller than he remembered. Older. Tired. But when she saw him, her whole face transformed. Marcus, she whispered. He'd forgotten she was the only person who still called him that. Not Diesel. Marcus. Hi, Mama, he said, and his voice broke on the word. They stared at each other for a long moment. 5 years of silence between them. 5 years of hurt and pride and stubborn anger. Then Ethel stepped forward and wrapped her arms around her son. My baby, she whispered into his chest. My boy came home. Diesel held her carefully like she might break. She felt so small. When did she get so small? I saw the video, he said. Ethel pulled back. Oh, honey, no. You didn't come all the way here because of that. Someone put their hands on you, Mama. It's handled. I forgave her. I didn't. Ethel's face went stern. Marcus Washington, you listen to me. No, Mama, you listen. Diesel's voice rose. You can forgive whoever you want. That's your business. But I'm here now, and nobody touches my mama and walks away clean. What are you gonna do? Beat up some scared woman, tear up a diner? If I have to. That ain't justice, baby. That's just more violence. It's what she deserves. And what do you deserve? Ethel's voice sharpened. You think acting like a thug is gonna make this right? You think your daddy would be proud? Don't bring daddy into this. He raised you better. I raised you better. You raised me to protect my family. I raised you to be a man of God. They stared at each other, both breathing hard. Behind Diesel, the other bikers shifted uncomfortably. Finally, Tommy cleared his throat. Maybe we should... Who are all these people? Ethel looked past her son at the crowd of leather-clad men. You brought your whole gang here. Club Mama, not gang. I don't care what you call it. I don't want violence in this town. Then you shouldn't have gotten hit. Ethel's hand came up so fast Diesel didn't see it until her palm connected with his cheek, not hard but firm enough to make a point. Don't you dare make my assault about your pride, she said quietly. This happened to me, not you, me. And I get to decide how it's handled. Diesel touched his stinging cheek, stunned. Now you can stay, Ethel continued, or you can go. But if you stay, you do it my way, with peace, with grace. Or so help me God, Marcus, I will kick you off this porch myself. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Diesel nodded slowly. Yes, ma'am. Good. Now get inside before the whole neighborhood calls the sheriff. The bikers ended up camping in Ethel's backyard. She brought out blankets and made sandwiches, clucking over how skinny they all looked. Tommy watched her fuss over them and leaned over to Diesel. Your mama's terrifying, he whispered. You have no idea, Diesel muttered back. That night, after everyone else had bedded down, Diesel sat on his mama's porch. She came out with 2 cups of tea and sat beside him. For a while they didn't talk, just listened to the crickets and the occasional snore from the backyard. I'm sorry I stayed away, Diesel finally said. I know. I shouldn't have said those things, that last night. No, you shouldn't have. But I meant some of them, Mama. I'm not the man you want me to be. Ethel sipped her tea. You're exactly the man I want you to be. You just don't see it yet. I run without laws. I've done things. You protect your brothers. You lead with honor. You came 500 miles because your mama got hurt. That's the man I raised. But you want me to walk away from this. Just let it go. No, baby. Ethel set down her cup. I want you to handle it right. There's a woman out there whose whole world just ended. She's scared, she's ashamed, and she's got a little girl watching her fall apart. You want justice? Help me find her. Help me show her grace. Grace. Diesel spat the word like poison. Mama, she hit you. And I forgive her. Why? Why do you always forgive? Don't you ever just want to make them hurt the way they hurt you? Every day, Ethel said simply. Every single day. You think forgiveness comes easy. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. But the alternative, holding on to that hate that would destroy me. And I won't give anyone that power over my soul. Diesel shook his head. I don't know how you do it. You learn. Same way you learned to ride that bike. Same way you learned to lead those men. Practice. Faith. Stubbornness. She smiled. You got plenty of that last one from me. Despite everything, Diesel laughed. Then he looked at his mama, really looked at her. The gray in her hair, the lines around her eyes, the way her hands trembled slightly when she lifted her cup. When did you get old? He asked softly. When you weren't looking. She patted his hand. But I'm still here, baby. Still fighting. Just with different weapons now. Grace, he said. Grace, she agreed. Most powerful weapon there is. You'll see. Diesel wasn't sure he believed her, but he was willing to try. For her, he'd try anything, even forgiveness. Dawn came too fast. Diesel woke to the smell of coffee and bacon, his back aching from sleeping on his mama's couch. For a moment, he forgot where he was. Then it all came rushing back, the video, the ride his mama's face when she opened that door. He found Ethel in the kitchen cooking for 20 men, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Mama, you don't have to... Hush, these boys need breakfast. She flipped another pancake. Besides, when's the last time you ate something that wasn't fried or out of a wrapper? Diesel couldn't remember. He poured himself coffee and watched his mama work. She moved slower than he remembered, but with the same determined efficiency. Nothing would stop Ethel Washington from feeding people who needed feeding. Tommy stumbled in, rubbing his eyes. Ma'am, you really didn't have to go to all this trouble. It's no trouble. Now sit down and eat. Within 20 minutes, the kitchen was packed with bikers wolfing down pancakes and eggs and bacon like they hadn't eaten in weeks. Ethel watched them with satisfaction, occasionally slapping someone's hand when they reached for seconds before everyone else had firsts. "So what's the plan, Diesel?" Jake asked through a mouthful of pancake. Diesel glanced at his mama. "We're going to help Mama find the woman from the video." The room went quiet. Several of the brothers exchanged confused looks. "Find her." Snake, one of the older members, set down his fork. "I thought we were going to make her regret she ever looked at Miss Ethel wrong." "We are," Ethel said, calmly refilling coffee cups. "By showing her mercy she don't deserve. That's the kind of regret that actually changes people." Snake looked at Diesel, waiting for the real answer, but Diesel just nodded. "You heard my mama. We find her, we talk to her, we see what happens from there." "Talk." Snake said it like a foreign word. "We rode 500 miles to talk." "Yeah." Diesel's voice went hard. "You got a problem with that?" Snake held his gaze for a moment, then shook his head. "No, brother, no problem." But Diesel could see it in their faces. Half his crew thought he'd gone soft. The other half were just confused. Hell's Angels didn't ride for forgiveness. They rode for respect, for reputation, for blood if it came to that. After breakfast, Ethel went to get dressed for her morning errands. Diesel followed her to her bedroom door. "Mama, how exactly do we find this woman?" "I got her address." Ethel pulled a piece of paper from her Bible. "Her landlord called me yesterday, wanted to apologize for what his tenant done. Said he was kicking her out. Gave me the address in case I wanted to press charges." "And you're gonna what, just show up at her door?" "That's exactly what I'm gonna do. You coming or not." Diesel realized his mama had already planned this whole thing. She'd played him, let him think he was in charge while she quietly arranged everything her way. "You're scary when you want to be. You know that." Ethel smiled. "Where do you think you got it from?" They took 3 bikes. Diesel Tommy and a brother named Preacher called that because he used to be a Baptist minister before the bottle got him and the club saved him. If anyone understood Ethel's way of thinking, it would be Preacher. The address led them to a rundown apartment complex on the edge of town, the kind of place where the playground equipment was broken and half the mailboxes had been vandalized. Diesel felt his jaw tighten. The woman who'd hit his mama lived here. They parked and Ethel climbed off the back of Diesel's bike with more grace than a 76-year-old woman should have. She smoothed her dress, picked up the bag of groceries she'd insisted on bringing, and walked toward Building C. "Second floor," she said. "Apartment 2D." They climbed the stairs, paint peeling on the walls, the smell of old cigarettes and mildew. Somewhere a baby was crying. Ethel stopped in front of 2D and knocked. Nothing. She knocked again. "Ms. Reeves, it's Ethel Washington. I'd like to talk to you." Still nothing. But Diesel heard movement inside. Someone was definitely home. "Please," Ethel said to the door. "I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to talk." Finally, a voice from inside, small, terrified. "Go away." "I can't do that, honey." "I said go away, I'll call the cops." "And tell them what? That the woman you assaulted is standing outside your door with groceries." Ethel's voice was gentle but firm. "I'm not leaving until we talk." A long silence, then locks clicking. The door opened a crack, the chain still on. Samantha Reeves looked worse than she had in the video. Her hair was greasy and uncombed, dark circles under red swollen eyes. She stared at Ethel through the crack in the door like she was seeing a ghost. "Why are you here?" Her voice cracked. "What do you want?" "To give you these." Ethel held up the grocery bag. "And to talk." "I don't want your charity." "Good, because this ain't charity. This is just what neighbors do for each other." "I'm not your neighbor. I'm the woman who hit you." "I know who you are, honey. That's why I'm here." Samantha's eyes flicked to Diesel and the others standing behind Ethel. "And them, what are they here for?" "That's my son Marcus and some of his friends. They're just making sure I get home safe." "Your son?" Samantha's voice went flat. "Right. The Hell's Angels leader who came to kill me." "Nobody's killing anybody," Ethel said firmly. "Now are you going to let me in, or are we having this conversation in the hallway?" For a moment, Diesel thought Samantha would slam the door, but then the chain rattled and the door opened. The apartment was a disaster. Boxes everywhere, half-packed, clothes on the floor, a mattress in the corner with a small figure huddled under blankets. "Mommy." A tiny voice. A little girl peeked out from under the covers. She couldn't have been more than 8. "It's okay, baby," Samantha said quickly. "Go back to sleep." But the girl was staring at Diesel. At his size, his tattoos, his leather vest with its patches. Her eyes went wide with fear. Diesel felt something twist in his chest. The kid was terrified of him. "I'll wait outside," he said quietly. Ethel nodded. "That's probably best." Diesel and the others went back down to the parking lot. Tommy lit a cigarette and offered one to Diesel, who shook his head. He was trying to quit, had been for 3 years now. "Your mama's something else," Preacher said. He'd been quiet the whole ride over, just watching. "Takes guts to do what she's doing." "Takes something," Diesel muttered. He kept looking up at the second floor, wondering what was happening in there. "You think it'll work?" Tommy asked. "The forgiveness thing. Hell if I know. But you're going along with it. It's what Mama wants. And if that woman spits in her face, if she don't accept the grace your mama's offering," Diesel's hands curled into fists, "then we'll deal with that when it happens." Upstairs, Ethel set the grocery bag on the counter. Milk bread, peanut butter cereal, the basics. Samantha stood with her arms wrapped around herself, watching like she expected a trap to spring any second. "Why are you doing this?" she finally asked. "Because you need help and I can give it." "I don't deserve help. I don't deserve anything from you." "No," Ethel agreed. "You probably don't. But that's the thing about grace, honey. It ain't about deserving it." Samantha's face crumpled. She sank onto the edge of the mattress, her whole body shaking. "I don't understand. I hit you. I humiliated you in front of everyone. I said things. I know what you said. So why aren't you pressing charges? Why aren't you letting your son and his gang come up here and—" "Because I remember being young and scared and so tired I couldn't think straight." Ethel sat down beside her. "Because I've said things I regret when I was at the end of my rope. Because you got a little girl depending on you and she don't deserve to watch her mama get destroyed." Samantha wiped her eyes with the heel of her hand. "I lost everything. My job, my apartment. Lily's school called, said the other kids have been teasing her about the video. She asked me yesterday why everyone hates us." "What did you tell her?" "That I made a mistake. That sometimes grown-ups do bad things when they're scared and tired." Samantha's voice broke. "But she's 8. She don't understand why her whole world is falling apart because of 30 seconds. The little girl Lily had gotten out of bed and was standing a few feet away watching them. She had her mother's eyes, but none of the hardness. Just fear and confusion. "Hi, sweetheart," Ethel said gently. "I'm Miss Ethel." Lily looked at her mother. Samantha nodded, and the girl came closer. "You're the lady from the video," Lily said softly. "That's right. I'm sorry my mommy hurt you." Ethel's heart cracked a little. "Thank you, honey. But your mommy already said sorry. And you know what, I forgive her." "You do." "I do. Even though it was bad?" "Even though it was bad." Lily thought about this. Then she climbed onto the mattress and wrapped her thin arms around Ethel's neck. "Thank you for not being mad at my mommy." Ethel held the child, feeling Samantha start to sob beside them. They sat like that for a long time, a woman who'd been struck. A woman who'd struck her, and a child caught between them. Finally, Ethel pulled back. "When do you have to be out of here?" "Tonight," Samantha said hollowly. "He wants us gone by 6. "And where you gonna go?" "I don't know. My car, maybe, until I can figure something out." "You got family?" "My mama's in Tennessee, but we haven't talked in 5 years. She told me I was making a mistake moving down here for that job. She was right." Samantha laughed bitterly. She was right about everything. 5 years is a long time to stay angry," Ethel said quietly. "Believe me, I know." Something in her voice made Samantha look up. "Your son. You said you haven't seen him in 5 years either." "That's right." "But he came when you needed him." "He did. Even though you were fighting, even though you said things to each other, Even though, Samantha looked down at her hands. You think my mama would come if I called? Only one way to find out, honey. Later that afternoon, Diesel was helping pack up the apartment when his phone rang. It was Jake, the young brother who'd shown him the video. His voice was tight. Diesel, we got a problem. What kind of problem? Some local boys just rolled up to Miss Ethel's house. Said they heard there was angels in town. They're looking for trouble. Diesel's blood went cold. Where's Mama? Still at that apartment, I think. But the boys back at the house, they're getting restless. Snake keeps talking about teaching these locals some respect. Don't let anyone do anything. I'm coming now. He found Ethel and pulled her aside. Mama, I gotta go. There's a situation. Ethel read his face. What kind of situation? The kind where, if I don't get there fast, someone's gonna do something stupid. Marcus, I'll handle it. I promise. No violence unless there's no choice. There's always a choice. Then I'll make the right one. He squeezed her shoulder. Stay here with Tommy and Preacher. Don't leave this building till I call you. He was out the door before she could argue. By the time Diesel got back to Ethel's house, the situation had escalated. A group of local guys looked like young 20s, probably some small-time crew trying to make a name, were standing in the street. 8 of them facing down 15 angels in Ethel's front yard. The leader was a kid with a shaved head and too much confidence. Y'all need to roll out. This ain't your town. Snake was right up in his face. We ain't going nowhere. You got a problem with that? Yeah, I got a problem. Got a problem with some biker gang rolling in here like they run shit. Club, Snake said through his teeth. We're a club, and your mouth's writing checks your ass can't cash, boy. Diesel's bike roared up the street. Everyone turned. The sound of that engine cutting off left a silence that felt dangerous. Diesel climbed off slowly. Every eye was on him. He was bigger than anyone there, older, clearly the one in charge. He walked through his brothers until he was face to face with the kid. You the one running your mouth? The kid tried to look tough, but Diesel saw the fear in his eyes. Just telling y'all the truth. This ain't your town. You're right. It's my mama's town, and I'm here visiting my mama. That a problem for you? Your mama's the one from the video. That's right. So what you here to throw your weight around, scare some waitress? I'm here to make sure my mama's safe, that's all. Safe? The kid laughed, but it sounded forced. From what? From people who think they can put hands on her and walk away clean. So you are here for trouble? No, Diesel said quietly. I'm here to prevent it. But if you keep pushing, you're gonna find out what happens when you mess with the wrong family. The kid's crew was backing up now, sensing how fast this could go bad. But the kid himself was trapped by his own pride. You threatening me? I'm giving you a chance to walk away. Take it. For a moment, it could have gone either way. Then a voice cut through the tension. Everybody stop. Ethel came up the sidewalk, moving faster than Diesel had seen her move in years. Tommy and Preacher were behind her, looking apologetic for not keeping her at the apartment. Mama, I told you to. Don't you mama me. Ethel walked right between Diesel and the kid. What is going on here? These boys need to learn some respect, Snake muttered. And you're gonna teach them with your fists. Ethel turned to the local crew. And you boys, what exactly are you trying to prove? That you're tough, that you can stand up to bikers? No one answered. Let me tell you something, Ethel continued. Both of you groups are acting like fools, fighting over what pride territory. My son came here because he loves me, not to start a war. And you boys, she looked at the locals, you think protecting this town means starting fights in my front yard. The kid with the shaved head looked uncomfortable now. We heard they were here to cause trouble. The only trouble happening is you causing it. Now I want all of you to shake hands and go your separate ways before I call Sheriff Patterson and he arrests every last one of you. Mama, Diesel started. Not another word, Marcus. The kid looked at Diesel. Your name's Marcus. That's what his mama calls him, Snake said with a smirk. We call him Diesel. Marcus, the kid almost smiled. That's not very scary. And just like that, the tension broke. A couple of the locals laughed. Even some of the angels cracked smiles. Ethel seized the moment. Now you boys hungry because I got leftover pancakes inside and it seems like a shame to waste them. Ma'am, we can't. You can and you will. I won't have people fighting in my yard on empty stomachs. Come on. 10 minutes later, the strangest scene unfolded. Hell's Angels and local wannabe gangsters sitting in Ethel Washington's living room eating pancakes off paper plates and making awkward small talk. The kid with the shaved head, turned out his name was Darius, sat next to Diesel on the couch. Your mama's intense, Darius said. You have no idea. She really forgave that woman just like that. Just like that. I couldn't do that. If someone disrespected my mama, I'd... Darius stopped. Well, I guess I'd probably do what you were about to do. Diesel looked at him. How old are you, kid? 22. You got a mama? A family? Yeah. My mom works at the hospital. Double shifts most days. And you hanging around causing trouble when you could be helping her. Darius looked down at his plate. I guess. Let me tell you something. You want to honor your mama. Do it by being someone she can be proud of, not someone she's got to worry about getting shot or locked up. That's why you're here, to make your mama proud. Diesel thought about that. I'm here because I stayed away too long, because I let pride keep me from the person who matters most. Don't make my mistake, kid. By the time everyone left Ethel's house, clean handshakes had been exchanged, and an unspoken truce had settled over the block. Tommy stood on the porch with Diesel watching the locals walk away. Your mama just stopped a war with pancakes, Tommy said, shaking his head. I've seen a lot in my life, but that's new. Diesel didn't answer. He was thinking about Samantha and her daughter, about Darius and his mama, about how much easier it was to throw a punch than to extend a hand. His phone buzzed. A text from Preacher Woman and Kid are packed up. Nowhere to go. What do you want me to do? Diesel showed the text to his mama. Ethel didn't hesitate. Bring them here. Mama, you can't. I got a spare room. They need a place to stay. End of discussion. The whole town's gonna lose their minds. You're bringing the woman who hit you into your house. I'm bringing a scared mother and her daughter somewhere safe. What they gonna do, arrest me for Christian hospitality? 20 minutes later, Samantha pulled up in her beat-up Honda Preacher, following on his bike. She got out slowly, looking at Ethel's house like it might be a trap. Ethel met her on the sidewalk. Come on, honey. Let's get you and Lily inside. Miss Ethel, I can't. Yes, you can. You're staying here until we figure something out. But people will talk. They'll say a lot of things. They always do. But what matters is you got nowhere else to go and I got room. That's all there is to it. Lily peeked out from the back seat, saw Diesel, and shrank back. Diesel crouched down to her level. Hey, Lily. I know I look scary. Big lots of tattoos, kind of ugly. You're not ugly, Lily said quietly. Well, thank you. That's real kind. But I know I can be scary looking. So I'm going to tell you something, okay? I'm Miss Ethel's son. And Miss Ethel, she don't let nobody in her house who ain't safe. So you don't got to be afraid of me or any of my friends. We're here to help. Okay. Lily looked at her mother. Samantha nodded. Then Lily looked back at Diesel and nodded too. Okay. That night, Samantha and Lily ate dinner at Ethel's table. It was awkward at first. Samantha couldn't look at Ethel without her eyes filling with tears. But Ethel kept the conversation light, asking Lily about school, about her favorite colors, about what she wanted to be when she grew up. A teacher, Lily said shyly, like Miss Anderson. That's a fine thing to be, Ethel said. Teachers change the world one child at a time. After Lily went to bed in the spare room, Samantha helped Ethel with the dishes. They worked in silence for a while, just the sound of running water and plates clinking. I called my mama, Samantha finally said, while we were packing. Yeah. What did she say? She cried. Said she'd been praying I'd call for 5 years. Samantha's voice caught. She wants us to come home, to Tennessee. Says she'll help me get back on my feet. That's wonderful, honey. Is it? I'm running away. From this town, from what I did from... You're not running away. You're going home. There's a difference. But I still hit you. I still said those things. Going to Tennessee don't change that. No, Ethel agreed. But staying here won't change it either. What'll change it is what you do next. How you treat the next person who asks for something. How you raise that beautiful girl in there. Whether you learn from this or let it define you. Samantha set down the dish she was washing. How do you do it? How do you forgive like it's easy? It's not easy. It's the hardest thing I do every single day. Then why do it? Ethel was quiet for a moment. You know what my husband used to say? He said hate is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. I watched that poison eat up so many people I loved. My sister, she held on to bitterness about some slight from 50 years ago, and it killed her joy. My best friend, she couldn't forgive her ex-husband, and it made her hard and mean. I decided I wasn't going to live like that. But some things can't be forgiven. Maybe, but most things can. And the ones that can't, you still gotta let go, or they'll drown you. Samantha wiped her eyes. I don't deserve this. Any of this. Your kindness, your forgiveness, your good. Because the minute you think you deserve grace is the minute you've missed the point. They finished the dishes in silence. Then Samantha turned to Ethel. Thank you, she whispered, for everything. Ethel pulled her into a hug. You're welcome, honey. Now go get some sleep. Tomorrow we'll start figuring out your next steps. But tomorrow would bring something none of them expected. Because while Ethel Washington was inside her house extending grace to the woman who'd wronged her, other forces were at work. People who saw the situation differently. People who thought mercy was weakness and who wanted justice served cold and hard. By morning, everything would change again. The call came at 3 in the morning. Diesel's phone vibrated on Ethel's coffee table where he'd crashed after everyone else went to bed. He grabbed it before it could wake the whole house. Yeah. Diesel, it's Razor, one of the brothers back in Charleston. His voice was tight. You need to see something. Can it wait till morning? No. Check your messages. Now. Diesel pulled up his phone and felt his blood run cold. Someone had posted Ethel's address online. Not just posted it, plastered it across every social media platform with a message. This is where the race traitor lives. The one protecting the woman who assaulted her. She's housing her abuser. Make her understand what real justice looks like. The post had been shared 10,000 times in the last 2 hours. Jesus Christ, Diesel whispered. There's more, Razor said. Some group's planning a protest. Outside your mama's house. Tomorrow morning. What group? Does it matter? They're coming either way. Diesel hung up and sat in the dark, his mind racing. He looked toward the spare room where Samantha and Lily were sleeping, then toward his mama's room, then at the front door, like he could already see the crowd gathering. Tommy stirred on the other couch. What's wrong? Everything. By dawn, Diesel had called everyone together in the backyard. His brothers, his mama, even Samantha. The only one still sleeping was Lily, thank God. They're coming here, Diesel said without preamble. Some activist group. They got Mama's address. Ethel's face stayed calm, but Diesel saw her hands tremble slightly. When? Today. Could be any time. And what do they want? You. They want you to throw Samantha out. Make a statement about not protecting your abuser. Diesel's voice hardened. They're calling you a race traitor. The words hung in the air like smoke. Samantha stood up. Then I'll go. I'll leave right now. I won't let them. Sit down, Ethel said firmly. But I said sit down. Ethel looked at each person in the circle. Nobody's running. Nobody's backing down. This is my house. I decide who stays and who goes. Mama, they're not going to listen to reason. Then we'll make them listen. How you going to serve them pancakes too? If that's what it takes. Ethel's voice went steel. I didn't survive 76 years in this world by letting bullies tell me who I can forgive. I'm not starting now. Snake spoke up. Miss Ethel, with all respect, these ain't the local boys from yesterday. These are people with agendas. They want a show. They want drama for their cameras. Then I'll give them something to film. Me standing on my porch in my house with whoever I choose to have in it. They could get violent, Tommy said quietly. They could, but I doubt they will. Not with 20 Hell's Angels standing between them and me. Diesel looked at his mama with something like awe. You want us to protect you and the woman who hit you at the same time. That's exactly what I want. The optics are going to be insane. I don't care about optics, I care about what's right. Samantha's voice was small. This is my fault, all of it. No, honey, Ethel said gently. You made a mistake. What's happening now? That's people using your mistake for their own purposes. Big difference. By 9 a.m., the first vehicles started arriving. News vans mostly, then cars and trucks as protesters began gathering on the street. Some held signs "Justice for Ethel," "No peace for abusers." Others had cameras filming everything. A woman with a megaphone stood at the front of the crowd. Her name was Monica Jackson, and according to Tommy's quick internet search, she ran a social justice organization out of Atlanta. We're here for Ethel Washington, Monica's voice boomed through the morning air. We're here to tell her that forgiving her abuser sends the wrong message. That protecting a racist sends the wrong message. Inside the house, Samantha flinched at every word. Lily had woken up and was crying in the spare room. Ethel went to comfort her while Diesel and his brothers positioned themselves on the porch. The sight of them, 20 bikers in full colors, made the crowd hesitate. Some people stopped chanting. Others pulled out their phones, filming the standoff. Monica Jackson wasn't intimidated. She walked right up to the property line. We're not here for trouble. We're here to talk to Miss Washington. She'll come out when she's ready, Diesel said. And who are you? Her security detail. I'm her son. Monica's eyes widened. You're Diesel Washington, the Hell's Angels leader. That's right. So let me get this straight. You rode here to protect your mother from the woman who assaulted her. But now you're protecting that woman too. I'm protecting my mama's right to make her own choices. Even when those choices betray her community. Even when they send a message that white women can assault black elders without consequences. The consequences ain't up to you. They're up to my mama, and she's decided. Well, that's why we're here, to change her mind. Good luck with that. The front door opened. Ethel stepped out onto the porch. The crowd went quiet. She wore her Sunday dress and her church hat, the same blue one from the video now cleaned and pressed. She walked slowly to the porch railing and looked out at the sea of faces. My name is Ethel Washington, she began. Her voice was clear and strong. And I want to thank y'all for coming all this way to check on me. We're here because you're making a mistake, someone shouted. Maybe I am, but it's my mistake to make. Monica stepped forward. Miss Washington, do you understand what you're doing? By housing this woman, by forgiving her so quickly, you're telling the world that what she did was okay. No, Ethel said firmly. I'm telling the world that I get to decide how I heal from what she did. Not you, not the internet, me. But you have a platform now. People are listening to you. You have a responsibility. I have a responsibility to live according to my faith, and my faith says I forgive. It don't say I forgive only when it's convenient, only when people approve, only when it makes sense to everyone else. Your faith is being used against you. Don't you see that? Oh, I see it. I see people using my name to push their own agendas. I see people who don't know me or my heart trying to tell me how to feel. I see a lot of things, young lady. The crowd was murmuring now. Some people looked uncomfortable. Others were nodding. Then Samantha appeared in the doorway. She looked terrified, but she stepped out onto the porch anyway, standing beside Ethel. The crowd exploded. That's her. Get her out of there. How dare you show your face? Samantha's hands were shaking, but she raised her voice. My name is Samantha Reeves, and I'm the woman who hit Miss Ethel. I'm not proud of it. I'm ashamed of it. I'll carry that shame for the rest of my life. You should be in jail, someone screamed. Maybe I should, but Miss Ethel didn't press charges. She didn't demand I lose everything. She didn't call for my destruction. She offered me grace I don't deserve and probably never will. Grace is for people who earn it. No, Ethel interjected. Grace is for people who can't earn it. That's what makes it grace. Monica Jackson looked frustrated. Miss Washington, I respect your faith. I do. But this isn't just about you anymore. This is about a pattern. About white women weaponizing their emotions against black women. About you needing a villain for your story, Ethel said quietly. I understand. I do. But Samantha Reeves ain't your villain. She's a scared woman who made a terrible mistake, and I'm choosing mercy. Even if it costs you support from your community, even then. Even if people say you're setting us back, even then. Even if your own people turn against you. Ethel's voice dropped low, but every word carried. When did y'all become my people? I don't know most of you. You don't know me. My people are the ones who've been by my side for 76 years. My church, my neighbors, my son. She gestured to Diesel. And right now, my people include a woman who wronged me, but who's trying to do better. The crowd didn't know how to respond to that. Monica Jackson looked like she wanted to argue, but couldn't find the words. Then a voice called out from the back. Miss Ethel, it's Pastor Reynolds. The crowd parted. Ethel's pastor walked through, followed by a dozen members of her church. They climbed the porch steps and stood beside her. Whatever you decide, Pastor Reynolds said, your church stands with you. More people started coming forward. Rosa from the diner, Frank the postal worker, Marcus and his son Jamal, even Darius, the kid with the shaved head from yesterday. This is our town, Darius said, staring down Monica Jackson, and Miss Ethel's our neighbor. You don't get to come here and tell us how to handle our business. Monica's face flushed. We're trying to help. By creating a circus, by making this woman's pain into a trending hashtag. Darius shook his head. Nah, that ain't help. That's exploitation. The crowd started to fracture. Some people were leaving, getting back in their cars. Others were arguing among themselves. The clean narrative they'd wanted, righteous community versus race traitor, was falling apart. Monica Jackson made one last attempt. Miss Washington, I'm asking you to reconsider, for the sake of nothing, Ethel said, exhaustion creeping into her voice. I'm done explaining myself. I'm done defending my choices. Y'all can think whatever you want. But this is my house, my life, and my forgiveness. And I'm keeping all three exactly as they are. She turned and went inside. Diesel and the brothers formed a wall, making it clear the conversation was over. The crowd began to disperse. Some looked angry, others thoughtful. Monica Jackson stood on the sidewalk for a long moment, then finally got in her car and drove away. By noon, the street was empty again. Just the news vans remained, cameras still rolling. Inside, Ethel sat at her kitchen table with her head in her hands. Samantha brought her tea. I'm so sorry, Samantha whispered. I never meant for... Hush. You didn't cause this. People's need for drama caused this. Diesel leaned against the counter. Mama, this ain't over. That video's still everywhere. More people might come. Let them come. You can't fight the whole world. I'm not fighting. I'm just living my truth and trusting God with the rest. Tommy stuck his head in from the living room. Diesel, you got a minute? They stepped outside. Tommy's face was grim. What now? Got a call from one of the brothers back home. There's been chatter. Some of the other clubs heard about what's going down here. And they think you've gone soft. That you're letting your mama turn you into some kind of peace and love hippie. Diesel laughed bitterly. Let them think what they want. Diesel, this is serious. They're talking about coming down here, showing you how it's supposed to be handled. They do that, and there'll be war. Exactly. So what do? Diesel thought for a moment. We call church. Right now. I need to talk to the brothers. Within an hour, all 20 angels were gathered in Ethel's backyard. Diesel stood before them, feeling the weight of their eyes. I know some of y'all think I've lost it, he began. That I'm not handling this the way we handle things. Snake nodded. It's crossed my mind. Here's the truth. My mama got disrespected. By every angel code, by everything we stand for, I should have handled that with blood. But my mama asked me to handle it different, with grace, with mercy. That ain't our way, someone muttered. No, it ain't. But I'm asking you to trust me, to follow my lead on this one, because here's what I learned in the last 2 days. Diesel's voice got stronger. Violence is easy. Rage is easy. What's hard is standing up for someone who don't deserve it. What's hard is protecting the person who wronged you. That takes real strength. Or real weakness, Snake said. Diesel stepped right up to him. You calling me weak? Snake held his gaze. For a moment, it looked like fists might fly. Then Snake shook his head. No, brother. I ain't calling you weak. I'm just trying to understand. Then understand this. We protect family. That's what we do. And right now, my mama's family includes that woman and her kid. So they're under club protection. Anyone got a problem with that? Silence. Then Preacher spoke up. I'm with Diesel. I've seen enough violence to know it don't solve everything. Maybe it's time we tried something different. I'm in, Tommy said. One by one, the others nodded. Even Snake reluctantly. All right then, Diesel said. We do this mama's way, but we stay ready, because something tells me this ain't over yet. He was right. That night, Samantha couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the crowd, the cameras, the hatred in their eyes. She thought about Lily asking why people were so angry. She thought about her mama in Tennessee waiting for them. She got up and found Ethel sitting on the porch in the dark. Can't sleep either, Ethel asked. Samantha sat down beside her. I keep thinking I should just go. Take Lily and leave tonight. Disappear. Where would you go? Anywhere. It doesn't matter. It always matters, honey. They sat in silence for a while. Then Samantha spoke again. Why are you really doing this? And don't say grace or faith or any of that. I want to know the real reason. Ethel was quiet for a long moment. You remind me of someone. A long time ago when I was about your age. I did something I'm not proud of. What did you do? I was working as a maid for a white family. They had a daughter about 10 years old. Sweet little thing. One day she broke an expensive vase and her mama was furious asking who did it. I knew that child would get beaten, so I said I did it. Took the blame. That sounds like a good thing. Wait. So the lady fired me. But before I left, she accused me of stealing. Said her jewelry was missing. It wasn't. But she called the police anyway. I spent 3 days in jail before they finally admitted there was no evidence. Samantha's breath caught. That's horrible. When I got out, I was so angry, so full of hate. I wanted to destroy that woman, ruin her life the way she'd tried to ruin mine. And I could have. I knew things about that family, secrets that would have torn them apart. What did you do? Nothing. I prayed on it, and I realized that destroying her wouldn't heal me. It would just make me into her. So I let it go. Took me years, but I let it go. And you think I'm like her? Like that woman who falsely accused you? No, honey. I think you're like me. Someone who made a mistake when you were scared and tired and at the end of your rope. Someone who needs grace more than judgment. Samantha started crying. I don't know how to accept this. I don't know how to live with what I did. You live with it by doing better, by being better, by showing your daughter that mistakes don't define us unless we let them. They sat together until dawn started breaking over the horizon. Neither of them knew that across town in a bar filled with men who'd been watching the news coverage with growing anger, a plan was being made. A plan that would test everything Ethel believed about grace and forgiveness. A plan that would bring fire. At 7 a.m., Diesel's phone rang. It was Sheriff Patterson. We got a problem. Some boys from the next county over are planning something. My deputy heard them talking at Murphy's bar last night. They're not happy about what's going on at Miss Ethel's. What kind of something? The kind where buildings burn. You need to get everyone out of that house. Now. Diesel didn't wait. He ran inside, woke everyone up, started moving people out to the backyard where they'd be safer. What's happening? Ethel demanded. Might be nothing, might be everything, but we're not taking chances. Within minutes, they were all outside. The brothers formed a perimeter. Tommy had called 911. Sheriff Patterson was on his way. They waited. The sun climbed higher. Birds sang like nothing was wrong. Then they smelled it. Smoke. But it wasn't coming from Ethel's house. It was coming from downtown, from Main Street, from Betty's Diner. By the time they got there, flames were already shooting through the roof. Fire trucks screamed up the street. People were running out of nearby buildings and spray painted across the front wall, barely visible through the smoke, for Miss Ethel. Diesel felt his blood turn to ice. "They think we did this." "We didn't," Tommy said. "Don't matter. Look at those faces." People were staring at them, at their colors, their bikes, their presence. Someone started shouting. It was them, the bikers. They torched the place. "We didn't touch that building," Snake yelled back. But the crowd was growing angry. Sheriff Patterson pulled up, saw the situation, and immediately called for backup. Then Ethel pushed through to the front. "Stop. All of you, stop." The crowd turned to her. "My son and his friends didn't do this. They were at my house all night." "How do you know?" someone demanded. "Because I was awake all night and I would have seen them leave. They're innocent. Or you're covering for them." The situation was deteriorating fast. More people were arriving, more accusations flying. Diesel could feel his brothers getting restless, ready to fight if needed. Then Samantha stepped forward. Her voice shook, but she spoke clearly. "I know who did this." Everyone went silent. "I saw them last night, 3 men in a truck. They drove past Miss Ethel's house twice yelling things. I got their license plate." She pulled out her phone, showed Sheriff Patterson a photo she'd taken. Patterson's face went grim. "That's Bobby Fletcher's truck. Son of a..." He keyed his radio. "All units, I need an APB on Bobby Fletcher and Associates. Suspicion of arson." The crowd was murmuring now, confused. The easy narrative bikers burned down diner was falling apart again. Diesel looked at Samantha. She met his eyes and nodded slightly. She'd just saved them all. Within an hour, the 3 men were arrested. They'd been drinking at Murphy's bar, worked themselves into a rage about race traders and bikers taking over, and decided to burn down the place where it all started. They thought they were standing up for Ethel. They thought they were heroes. Instead, they'd destroyed the town's oldest business and hospitalized 2 firefighters who'd inhaled too much smoke. That afternoon, Ethel stood in front of the burned-out shell of Betty's Diner and cried for the first time since any of this started. Not for herself. For Rosa, who'd worked there for 30 years. For the memories in those ashes. For the hate that kept spreading like the fire. Diesel put his arm around her shoulders. "We'll rebuild it, Mama." "With what? The owner's insurance probably won't cover arson." "Then we'll raise the money. Me and the brothers will figure it out." Ethel looked up at him. "Why would you do that?" "Because this is where it started. And maybe if we rebuild it, we can rebuild everything else too." She leaned against her son, and for a moment they just stood there. A mother and the child she'd raised, both trying to figure out how Grace survives in a world that keeps choosing fire. The news coverage of the fire changed everything. Suddenly the story wasn't about forgiveness or justice or race anymore. It was about destruction. About 3 white men burning down a beloved diner supposedly in defense of a black woman who'd explicitly asked them not to. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. By that evening, the video of Ethel crying in front of the burned diner had gone viral. Not as viral as the slap, but close. People who'd been calling her a race traitor were now calling her a victim. People who'd wanted Samantha destroyed were now saying maybe forgiveness wasn't so crazy after all. The narrative had shifted. Again. "I can't keep up with this," Samantha said, scrolling through her phone at Ethel's kitchen table. "Yesterday they hated me. Today they're saying I'm a hero for getting those men arrested. Tomorrow they'll probably hate me again." "Welcome to being in the public eye," Diesel muttered. He was exhausted. They all were. Ethel set down coffee in front of them. "The public don't know what it wants. It just wants something to watch. We can't live our lives according to their whims. But they're not going to leave us alone." "Miss Ethel," Tommy said from the doorway, "my phone's been ringing off the hook. News stations, podcasters, some documentary people. Everyone wants to tell this story. Then let them tell it without us. Don't work that way. We're the story now. All of us. Lily wandered in, rubbing her eyes. She'd been napping. "Mommy, when are we going to Grandma's house?" Samantha pulled her daughter close. "Soon, baby. Real soon." "Can Miss Ethel come?" Everyone went quiet. Ethel's face softened. "Oh, honey, I got to stay here. This is my home." "But I don't want to leave you." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "You're nice to me. You make good pancakes." Ethel knelt down, her knees protesting. "Tell you what. You go be with your grandma, get settled in, and maybe someday you come visit me. How's that sound?" "Promise." "I promise." Diesel watched the exchange and felt something crack in his chest. When had he become the kind of man who got emotional over a little girl's tears? His phone buzzed. A text from Razor back in Charleston. "The other clubs are standing down. They heard about the fire. They're saying you handled it right." Small mercy, Diesel thought. At least he wasn't about to have a war on his hands. But there were other battles brewing. The next morning, Rosa from the diner showed up at Ethel's door. Her eyes were red from crying. "I don't know what to do," she said, collapsing into Ethel's arms. "That diner was my whole life. 30 years I worked there. And now it's just gone." "I know, honey. I know. The owner called me this morning. Said he's not rebuilding. Said it's too much trouble, too much controversy. He's taking the insurance money and retiring." Ethel's jaw tightened. "He's giving up. Can you blame him? After everything that's happened?" "Yes," Ethel said firmly. "I can. That diner's been serving this town for 60 years. It's where people got engaged, celebrated birthdays, mourned losses. It's history. And he's just gonna let it die. What else can he do?" Ethel didn't answer right away. But Diesel could see the wheels turning in her head. He knew that look. It meant trouble. "Mama, what are you thinking?" "I'm thinking we buy the property." Everyone stared at her. "With what money?" Diesel asked carefully. "With that GoFundMe money people raised for me. It's up to 80,000 now. I haven't touched a penny of it." "That money's for you, for what you went through. And I'm choosing to use it for this. We buy the property, we rebuild the diner, and we do it right, together." "Mama, don't mama me. You said you'd help rebuild. I'm giving you the chance." Rosa was crying again. "Miss Ethel, you can't do that. That money's yours. Money's just money, honey. But that diner, that's community, that's jobs, that's a place people belong, and I'll be damned if I let hate burn that down for good." Samantha spoke up quietly. "I'll help." Everyone looked at her. "I know I'm leaving soon, but before I go, I'll help, however I can." "You don't have to," Rosa started. "Yes, I do. This is my fault. All of it. The least I can do is help fix it." Ethel shook her head. "It's not your fault 3 fools decided to commit arson. But if you want to help, we'll take it. We'll take any help we can get." By noon, word had spread through Ridgeville. Miss Ethel Washington was buying Betty's diner. She was rebuilding it with money that people had donated to her after she'd been assaulted, and she was inviting anyone who wanted to help. Pastor Reynolds was the first to arrive with a crew from the church. Then Darius and his friends showed up. Then Frank the postal worker, Marcus and his son Jamal, people Diesel had never seen before. The Hendersons from the hardware store brought supplies at cost. Even some of the protesters from earlier in the week came back this time with work gloves instead of signs. And Diesel's brothers rolled up their sleeves and got to work alongside everyone else. The sight was surreal. Hell's Angels working next to church ladies. Young black men working next to old white men. The woman who'd been slapped working next to the woman who'd slapped her. The news cameras came back, of course. They couldn't resist the story. But this time Diesel noticed something different in how people responded. They weren't performing for the cameras, they were just working. By the end of the first day, they'd cleared all the debris. The shell of the building stood empty, ready to be rebuilt. Diesel found his mama sitting on the curb, exhausted but smiling. "You did good today, Mama. We all did good today. You know this is going to take months, right? Maybe longer. and cost more than $80,000. I know. And you're sure about this? Ethel looked at him. Baby, I haven't been sure about anything since the day you were born. But I did it anyway. That's what faith is. Doing the thing even when you're scared it won't work out. Diesel sat beside her. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you too. Look at you using your hands to build instead of break. Your daddy would have loved to see this. The mention of his father hit Diesel hard. You think he would have approved of how I handled all this? I think he would have done exactly what you're doing. He was a fighter, your daddy. But he knew when to fight and when to forgive. That's what made him a good man. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Tommy came over. Hate to interrupt, but we got another situation. Of course we do, Diesel muttered. What now? Hospital called. They want to talk to Miss Ethel. Said it's urgent. Ethel's face went pale. The hospital who? They wouldn't say, just said you need to come now. The drive to County General took 15 minutes, but felt like hours. Ethel sat in the back of Tommy's truck, her hands clasped so tight her knuckles were white. Diesel rode beside her, trying to figure out who could be in the hospital. Someone from church. A neighbor. They rushed through the emergency room doors. A nurse met them immediately. Mrs. Washington, that's me. Come with me, please. There's someone asking for you. They followed her through a maze of corridors to a private room. The nurse opened the door. Inside, hooked up to monitors and IVs, was one of the men who'd burned down the diner. Bobby Fletcher. His face was covered in burns bandages wrapped around his arms.
What the hell?
Diesel started forward, but Ethel grabbed his arm. Wait. Bobby's eyes opened. He saw Ethel and immediately started crying. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. What happened to you? Ethel's voice was careful. When we set the fire, I went back. Thought I heard someone inside. Went in to check and part of the ceiling collapsed. Burned me pretty bad. There was no one inside. I know that now. But I thought I was saving someone. He laughed bitterly. Ironic, right? I burned down a building to defend you and almost died trying to save someone who wasn't there. Diesel wanted to punch the man, wanted to rage at him for his stupidity, his hate, his destruction, but his mama's hand on his arm kept him still. Why did you ask for me? Ethel said. Because I need to say it to your face. I'm sorry. For the fire. For thinking I knew what you wanted. For being a hateful fool who thought violence was the answer. Bobby's voice broke. My daughter's 8 years old, same age as that little girl staying with you. And she came to visit me today and she looked at me like I was a monster, because I am. I am a monster. No, Ethel said quietly. You're a man who made terrible choices, but you can choose different from here on out. How I'm going to prison. My life's over. Your life ain't over till you're dead, and last I checked, you're still breathing. Bobby stared at her. How are you not screaming at me right now? How are you not celebrating that I'm lying here burned and broken? Because that would make me just like the people who wanted to destroy Samantha, and I'm not built that way. Samantha, the woman who made a mistake just like you did, just like we all do. Do you forgive me? Bobby's voice was small. Ethel was quiet for a long moment. Diesel could feel the weight of the question. This wasn't some theoretical forgiveness. This man had destroyed property, had put people in danger, had acted out of hate, even if he'd convinced himself it was loyalty. I'm working on it, Ethel finally said. Ask me again in a few days. Bobby nodded, tears streaming down his burned face. That's more than I deserve. Grace usually is. They left the hospital in silence. Once they were back in the truck, Diesel exploded. Working on it, Mama, that man burned down the diner. I know what he did. And you're gonna forgive him too. Eventually, when I can do it honestly. This is crazy. This whole situation is crazy. Where does it end? How many people do you have to forgive before you're allowed to just be angry? Ethel turned to look at her son. You want to know why I forgive Marcus? Really want to know? Yeah, I do. Because 30 years ago, I had to forgive your father. Diesel went still. What? Your daddy, the man you think was perfect. He wasn't. He cheated on me when you were 2 years old. Had a whole other woman for 6 months before I found out. The words hit Diesel like a physical blow. No, Daddy wouldn't. He did. And when I confronted him, you know what he said? He said he was lonely, that I was always working, always tired, always focused on you and the bills and keeping us afloat. Said he needed attention I wasn't giving him. That's not an excuse. No, it's not. And I told him that. Told him he could leave, take his excuses and his other woman, and get out. But he stayed. He begged to stay, promised he'd end it, go to counseling, do whatever it took. And I had a choice. Hold on to my anger and my hurt and my right to throw him out, or forgive him and see if we could build something better. So you forgave him. It took me 2 years. 2 years of counseling and crying and working through it. But yes, I forgave him. And you want to know something? Those last 15 years before Vietnam took him, they were the best years of our marriage, because we both knew how close we'd come to losing each other. We didn't take each other for granted anymore. Diesel's world was reeling. His father, his hero, had been unfaithful, and his mother had forgiven him. Why didn't you ever tell me? Because it wasn't your burden to carry. It was between me and him and God. But I'm telling you now because you need to understand. Forgiveness ain't weakness. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. And I've had to do it more times than I can count. They rode the rest of the way in silence. When they got back to the house, Samantha was packing. Her mama was driving down from Tennessee tomorrow to pick them up. We're leaving the day after tomorrow, Samantha said. Early morning. Ethel nodded. You need help packing? No, we're almost done. Just wanted to say, Samantha's voice caught. I don't know how to thank you for everything. You thank me by doing better, by being the mama Lily needs, by showing her that mistakes don't have to be forever. I will, I promise. Lily ran up and hugged Ethel's legs. I'm gonna miss you, Miss Ethel. I'm gonna miss you too, sweet girl. But you'll come visit, remember? I remember. That night, Diesel couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about his father, about forgiveness, about everything his mama had been carrying all these years. He found her on the porch again. It seemed like that's where all their important conversations happened. Can I ask you something? Always. Do you ever regret it, forgiving Daddy? Ethel thought about it. Sometimes. When the hurt comes back up, when I remember how betrayed I felt. But then I think about those last 15 years. About how he became the man I always knew he could be. About how you got to grow up with both parents instead of just me. And I think, yeah, it was worth it. I don't know if I could do that. Forgive like you do. You're already doing it, baby. You forgave me. Diesel looked at her confused. For what? For pushing you away when you needed me. For being so focused on making you into what I thought you should be, that I forgot to love who you were. For judging your choices instead of supporting you. For letting 5 years go by without reaching out. Mama, I was the one who left. And I was the one who let you. I could have called, could have shown up at your clubhouse, could have fought for us. But I was too proud, too hurt, too convinced I was right. Ethel's voice shook. You forgave me when you came back, when you wrapped your arms around me on that porch, and you've been forgiving me every day since by staying, by helping, by trying to understand. Diesel felt tears on his face. I missed you, Mama. I missed you too, baby, so much. They held each other while the crickets sang and the world kept spinning, and somewhere in the distance a motorcycle engine revved. The next day brought more rebuilding work. The foundation was being poured, walls starting to go up. It was beginning to look less like a disaster and more like possibility. Darius brought his crew back. They'd been coming every day, working harder than anyone. Diesel pulled him aside during a water break. Can I ask you something? Why are you doing this? Darius shrugged. Miss Ethel, she didn't have to stand up for us that day. When those protesters came, she could have let them make us out to be troublemakers. But she stood up, said we were her neighbors. So you're returning the favor? Nah, man. It's bigger than that. My whole life people been telling me what I can't do. Can't trust cops. Can't work with white folks. Can't change anything. But look at this. He gestured at the construction site. All these different people working together building something. Miss Ethel showed us it's possible. I ain't gonna forget that. You're a good kid, Darius. I'm trying to be. Your mama makes you want to try. That afternoon, reporters came by again. One of them, a young woman named Jennifer Park, approached Ethel. Miss Washington, can I ask you something off the record? Off the record means you're not writing it down right. Jennifer smiled. Right. Then go ahead. Do you ever wonder if all this, the forgiveness, the rebuilding, the grace, do you ever wonder if it's worth it if anyone's actually changing? Ethel looked around at the construction site, at Samantha handing out water bottles, at Diesel and Tommy teaching Jamal how to properly set a beam, at Rosa laughing with Pastor Reynolds, at the young and old and black and white all working together. Every day, Ethel said honestly, every single day I wonder if I'm wasting my time, if I'm being naive, if grace is just another word for letting people walk all over you. So why keep doing it? Because the alternative is hate, and hate's easier. It's comfortable. It doesn't require you to change or grow or see people as complicated. But hate also eats you alive from the inside. I've watched it destroy people I love. So yeah, I choose grace, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Jennifer was quiet for a moment. That's on the record, by the way. Ethel laughed. I figured. That evening, Diesel gathered his brothers. They'd been in Ridgeville for 8 days now, the longest he'd been away from the clubhouse in years. We're heading out tomorrow, he announced, back to Charleston. About time, Snake muttered, but there was no heat in it. But I'm staying, Diesel continued. For another week at least, till the diner's in better shape. Tommy raised an eyebrow. You sure? Yeah, my mama needs me, and for once I'm gonna be here. We could stay too, Preacher offered. Nah, y'all got lives, families, responsibilities back home. I'll catch up when I can. That night, Ethel made a big dinner for everyone. All the brothers, Samantha and Lily Rosa, Pastor Reynolds Darius, and his crew. Her small house was packed with people and noise and laughter. Diesel watched his mama move through the crowd, making sure everyone had enough to eat, refilling drinks, touching shoulders and cheeks with the easy affection she'd always had. She looked tired, but happy. More alive than he'd seen her in years. She's something special, your mama, Tommy said beside him. Yeah, she is. You know what you're doing, right? Staying here. What do you mean? You're choosing her over the club. That's a big deal. I'm not choosing her over the club. I'm choosing both. It's possible to love more than one thing, Tommy. I know. Just making sure you know what you're giving up. I'm not giving up anything. I'm getting back something I lost 5 years ago. Tommy clapped him on the shoulder. Then I'm happy for you, brother. Later, after everyone had left or gone to bed, Diesel found Lily sitting on the couch crying quietly. Hey, what's wrong? I don't want to leave tomorrow. I like it here. Diesel sat down beside her. Your grandma's going to be so happy to see you, though. But Miss Ethel won't be there, and you won't be there, and everyone here is nice. People in Tennessee will be nice too. But they don't know about what my mommy did. Here everyone knows, and they still like us. What if people there find out and hate us again? Diesel felt his throat tighten. This kid had been through too much. You want to know a secret? Lily nodded, wiping her eyes. Everywhere you go, there's going to be some people who are kind and some who are mean. But the trick is to remember that the kind ones matter more. One Miss Ethel is worth 100 mean people. You understand? I think so. And your mama, she's trying real hard to be better. She messed up, but she's fixing it. That takes courage. You should be proud of her. I am proud of her. She's my mommy. Exactly. And no matter what anyone else says, that's what matters. Lily hugged him suddenly. You're nice too, even though you look scary. Diesel laughed. Thanks, kid. You're not so bad yourself. The next morning came too fast. Samantha's mother arrived in a minivan, a tiny woman with Samantha's eyes and a face that had seen hard years. She and Ethel sized each other up for a moment, two mothers who understood each other without words. "Thank you for taking care of my girl," Mrs. Reeves said. "She took care of herself. I just gave her a place to land." "Still, what you did showing her grace when the whole world wanted her destroyed, that's rare. That's special. So is raising a daughter who's brave enough to face her mistakes. You did that." Mrs. Reeves's eyes filled with tears. "I should have been here sooner. Should have never let 5 years go by." "Well, you're here now. That's what counts." Samantha and Lily said their goodbyes. Lily clung to Ethel for a long time, making her promise again that they could visit. "I promise, sweet girl, you write me letters, okay?" "I will, every week." They loaded the minivan. Samantha paused before getting in, looking at Diesel. "Thank you for not doing what you came here to do." "What did I come here to do? Hurt me, scare me, make me pay." Diesel thought about that. "Yeah, well, turns out my mama had a better plan. She usually does." Samantha smiled, then got serious. "I'm going to make this right, somehow. I'm going to prove I learned something from all this." "You already have. Now go be with your family." The minivan pulled away. Diesel and Ethel stood in the driveway waving until it disappeared around the corner. "You think she'll be all right?" Diesel asked. "I think she's got a chance. That's all any of us get. A chance." They went inside. The house felt emptier now, but also lighter somehow. That afternoon, Diesel's brothers rode out. 20 motorcycles leaving Ridgeville the same way they'd arrived, in formation, engines roaring, drawing every eye. But this time people weren't afraid. They waved, some even cheered. Tommy was the last to leave. He pulled Diesel aside. "You call if you need anything at all." "I will." And Diesel, "I'm proud of you, brother. What you did here, how you handled it, that took real strength." "I didn't do anything. That was all Mama." "Nah, man. That was you learning when to fight and when to forgive. Your daddy would be proud." After they were gone, Diesel and Ethel sat on the porch, just the two of them, like it had been at the beginning. "So what now?" Diesel asked. "Now we finish building that diner. Then you go home to your club. And then we don't let 5 more years go by. You call me. Visit when you can. We stay family." "Yeah," Diesel said. "We stay family." You know what I realized through all this? What's that, Mama? Forgiveness ain't the end of the story. It's the beginning. It's what lets us start over. You and me, we started over. Samantha gets to start over. Even those fools who burned the diner get a chance to start over. And the people who don't want to start over, who want to stay angry. Ethel thought about it. Then that's their choice. But it ain't going to be mine, and I hope it ain't going to be yours either. Diesel looked at his mama, this tiny, fierce woman who'd changed more lives in a week than most people change in a lifetime. "No, Mama, it ain't going to be mine either." 3 weeks had passed since Samantha left. 3 weeks of hammering and sawing and the slow, steady work of rebuilding something that had been destroyed. The diner was taking shape, walls up, roof, half-finished windows, ordered. It was beginning to look like a real building again instead of just ashes and broken dreams. Diesel had stayed the whole time. Every morning he woke up on his mama's couch, worked the construction site all day, came home exhausted, and did it again the next day. His hands were calloused and his back ached, but something in him felt more settled than it had in years. He was on the roof helping with the framing when his phone rang. Tommy's name flashed on the screen. "Yeah. Brother, we got a problem back home." Diesel's stomach dropped. "What kind of problem?" "The kind where the feds are asking questions about our finances. They're sniffing around looking at our books. They know you've been gone for 3 weeks and they're wondering why." "Tell them I'm visiting my mother." "I did. They asked why the chapter president needs 3 weeks for a family visit. They think something's up." Diesel climbed down from the roof, moving away from the other workers. "How bad is it?" "Could be nothing. Could be the start of something that lands us all in prison. You need to come home. Handle this before it gets worse." "How long do I have?" They want to see you by Friday. That's 3 days. Diesel looked at the half-finished diner, at the people working, at his mama handing out sandwiches to the lunch crew. All right, I'll be there. You sure? Because if this goes sideways, I'm sure I'll handle it. He found Ethel after the lunch break, pulled her aside. I gotta go back to Charleston. Club business. Her face fell, but she nodded. When factor? Tomorrow morning. There's some legal issues that need my attention. Is it serious? Could be. Won't know till I get there and see what they got. You coming back? If I can, Mama. If I can. That night, Ethel made his favorite meal, fried chicken, collard greens, cornbread. They ate in comfortable silence, both knowing this might be goodbye again, both afraid to say it out loud. Whatever happens, Ethel finally said, I want you to know I'm proud of who you've become. I run an outlaw motorcycle club, Mama. I've done things. I know what you've done, and I know who you are underneath all of it. You're a man who protects his family, who leads with honor, who learned to forgive. That's who I'm proud of. I learned it from you, and I learned it from your daddy, and he learned it from his mama. Grace gets passed down just like everything else. Diesel reached across the table and took her hand. I love you, Mama. I love you too, baby. Now go pack. You got a long ride tomorrow. But before Diesel could leave the next morning, Rosa showed up at the door, breathless and panicked. Miss Ethel, you need to see this. She held up her phone. Another video was going viral, but this time it wasn't from Ridgeville. It was from Tennessee. Samantha Reeves standing in front of a church speaking to a small crowd. Lily beside her holding her hand. My name is Samantha Reeves, the video Samantha was saying. And 3 weeks ago, I committed assault. I slapped an elderly black woman because I was tired and angry, and I let my worst self win. I'm not here to make excuses. I'm here to take responsibility. The camera moved closer. Samantha's face was steady, determined. Miss Ethel Washington forgave me when I didn't deserve it. She housed me when I had nowhere to go. She showed me grace I'll never be able to repay. And I want the world to know forgiveness isn't weakness. It's the strongest thing I've ever witnessed. It changed my life. It changed my daughter's life. And I hope it can change yours too. The video ended, but underneath it, the comments were exploding. Thousands of them arguing, debating, some praising Samantha's courage, others calling her a manipulator. Ethel watched it twice, tears streaming down her face. She didn't have to do that, she whispered. She could have just moved on, started over quiet. But she didn't, Diesel said. She stood up, just like you taught her. The video complicated everything. Within hours, the national news picked it up. Suddenly, the story was everywhere again, but this time it was different. This time, people were talking about redemption, about accountability paired with grace, about what healing actually looks like. Diesel's phone exploded with messages. Tommy Razor, even Snake, they'd all seen it. The whole country had seen it. You still gotta come home, Tommy said when Diesel called him. But brother, what you and your mama did down there, it's bigger than we thought. People are talking. Important people. What kind of important people? The kind who might be interested in helping instead of investigating. It didn't make sense yet, but Diesel filed it away. He hugged his mama goodbye, promised to call, and rode out of Ridgeville with the morning sun at his back. The ride to Charleston took 8 hours. Every mile, Diesel's mind turned over the same questions. What were the feds really looking for? How much trouble was the club in? And why did he have this strange feeling that everything was about to change again? He pulled into the clubhouse compound just after sunset. His brothers were waiting, tension written all over their faces. Talk to me, Diesel said, barely off his bike. Tommy handed him a folder. This is what they're asking about. Money movements, large cash deposits, donations to various causes. Diesel flipped through it. Then he started laughing. What's funny? Snake demanded. They think we're laundering money, but look at these deposits. They're from the GoFundMe. People sent money for the diner rebuild, and some of them sent it to us because they knew we were helping. So we're clean. We're clean. This is legitimate fundraising for a legitimate construction project. Tommy's face broke into a grin. So the feds are investigating us for helping rebuild a diner. Looks like it. The relief in the room was palpable. But Razor spoke up from the corner. There's more, the agent in charge. She wants to meet with you. Personal meeting, tomorrow. What for? She wouldn't say, just said it was important. The next morning, Diesel walked into the federal building in downtown Charleston. He'd been in interrogation rooms before. He knew the game. But when they led him to a conference room instead of an interview room, he knew something was different. The agent waiting for him was a woman in her 40s, sharp-eyed and professional. Her nameplate read Special Agent Maria Vasquez. Mr. Washington, thank you for coming in. Didn't know I had a choice. You always have a choice. Please sit. Diesel sat wary. My lawyer says, you don't need your lawyer. This isn't that kind of meeting. Vasquez opened a folder. I've been following your story. You and your mother. What happened in Ridgeville? That's personal business. It became public business when it went viral, and it became federal interest when we noticed money moving through your organization. Money for a legitimate rebuild project. I know. I've verified it all. The club's clean on this. Vasquez leaned forward. But that's not why I asked you here. Then why am I here? Because I think you and your mother stumbled onto something important, and I think you can help us replicate it. Diesel stared at her. I don't understand. Gang violence in this country is a crisis. We arrest people, lock them up, but it doesn't solve the root problem. Communities stay broken. Cycles of violence continue. But what you did in Ridgeville, bringing together people who should be enemies, building something instead of destroying it, that's the kind of intervention that actually works. You want me to start building diners everywhere? Vasquez smiled. Not exactly, but we're starting a pilot program. Community-led conflict resolution. Using people who have credibility on the streets to mediate disputes, create alternative paths. And we need leaders who understand both sides. People like you. I'm a Hells Angels chapter president. Exactly. You're someone young men listen to. Someone who's lived the life but found a different way. We want to fund programs, construction, training, job placement, mentorship, and we want people like you to run them. Diesel's head was spinning. This is crazy. This is an opportunity. For you, for your club, for communities that need it. Think about it. What you saw happen in Ridgeville could happen in 10 cities, 20, more. And what do you get out of it? Reduced violence, better community relations, success stories we can point to when people say nothing works. Vasquez slid a card across the table. Talk to your mother, talk to your brothers. If you're interested, call me. Diesel rode back to the clubhouse in a daze. The brothers were waiting, expecting him to tell them they were in trouble, that lawyers were needed, that everything was falling apart. Instead, he told them about the offer. The room erupted in arguments. We don't work with feds, Snake said immediately. It's not working with them, Diesel countered. It's taking their money to do what we want to do anyway. Since when do we want to be social workers? Since we saw what it did in Ridgeville. Since we realized that building something is harder than breaking it, but it lasts longer. Tommy spoke up. I'm not saying no. I'm just saying we need to think hard about this, about what it means for the club. It means we evolve. We stay relevant. We use our rep for something besides intimidation. Preacher, who'd been quiet, finally spoke. Your mama would say this is God opening a door. My mama would say a lot of things, but yeah, she'd probably say that. They argued for hours. Some brothers were firmly against it. Others were curious. A few, like Tommy and Preacher, were cautiously optimistic. Finally, Diesel called for a vote. Club rules. It had to be unanimous for something this big. All in favor? Hands went up, slowly one by one. Even Snake reluctantly raised his hand. All right then, we're doing this. But first Diesel needed to talk to his mama. He rode back to Ridgeville that weekend. The diner was nearly finished, just interior work left. Ethel was there supervising, making sure every detail was right. Mama, we need to talk. They walked to the park near her house, sat on a bench. Diesel told her everything. The federal agent, the offer, the vote. Ethel listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "You're asking my permission. I'm asking your opinion. My opinion is that you already know what you want to do. You're just scared." "Yeah, I'm scared. This changes everything. For me, for the club, for your whole life," Ethel finished. "I know. But baby, you've been changing since you got here 3 weeks ago. This is just the next step. What if we fail? What if we take their money and nothing changes? Then you fail. But at least you tried. And that's more than most people can say." Diesel thought about Bobby Fletcher in the hospital bed, about Samantha standing in front of that church, about Darius and his crew working on the diner every day, about all the small moments of grace he'd witnessed. "All right, I'm gonna do it." "Good. Now come help me figure out what color to paint the walls." 2 months later, Ethel's table opened its doors. The new diner was bigger than the old one, brighter with huge windows that let in Georgia sunlight. Above the door hung the sign Diesel had carved, "Forgiveness is the only revolution that lasts." The grand opening was packed. People from all over Georgia came. News cameras, of course. But also regular folks who'd followed the story and wanted to see the ending. Rosa managed the front-of-house tears in her eyes as she greeted customers. The menu was the same as Betty's had been: comfort food, Southern cooking, nothing fancy but everything made with love. Diesel stood in the corner watching his mama work the room. She moved from table to table asking how the food was, touching shoulders, laughing at jokes. This was her element. This was what she was born to do. Then the door opened and Samantha walked in with Lily and Mrs. Reeves. The room went quiet. Everyone recognized her. Ethel walked straight to them and pulled Samantha into a hug. "I'm so glad you came. Wouldn't miss it. This place, it's beautiful, Miss Ethel. It's ours, all of ours. Couldn't have done it without you." Lily tugged on Ethel's dress. "You promised I could help serve sometimes." "I did promise that. Tell you what, you help Rosa hand out menus today. We'll see about getting you a real job when you're older." The girl beamed and ran off to help. Samantha watched her go, then turned back to Ethel. "I got a job, teaching assistant at my daughter's school, starting next month." "That's wonderful, honey. It's not much, but it's a start. And I'm going to counseling, working through everything. One step at a time, that's all any of us can do." Later, Pastor Reynolds blessed the diner. Darius and his crew sat at the biggest table, stuffing their faces and laughing. Sheriff Patterson came by, shook Diesel's hand, said he was proud of what they'd built. Even Bobby Fletcher showed up. Burns mostly healed, his daughter holding his hand. He stood in the doorway like he wasn't sure he was welcome. Ethel saw him and walked over. "Bobby." "Miss Ethel, I wasn't sure if I should come. After everything you're here. That takes courage." "Come on, I saved you a booth." She led him and his daughter to a table. The same table where it had all started. Where she'd asked for a clean fork and everything changed. Diesel watched from the kitchen and felt something shift in his chest. This was what winning looked like. Not blood or vengeance or dominance. This, people choosing to show up despite their shame, choosing to try again despite their failures. That evening, after the last customer left and they were cleaning up, Diesel found his mama sitting in that same booth, exhausted but content. "We did it, Mama. We did. Though I'm not sure what it is exactly. Built something, changed something, proved that grace works. For now. Tomorrow someone else will need forgiving. Next week another crisis. This ain't the end, baby. It's just proof that the way works. Then I guess we keep going. I guess we do." 3 months later, the first Hells Angels Community Center opened in North Charleston. Funded by federal grant money, staffed by brothers from the club, offering construction training, job placement, and mentorship to young men trying to find a different path. The second center opened 2 months after that in Savannah, then Atlanta, then Memphis. Diesel split his time between running the Charleston chapter and overseeing the programs. It was exhausting work, but it was good work. Tommy became director of the construction training program. Preacher ran the mentorship side. Even Snake found his place teaching motorcycle maintenance. Turned out the man was brilliant with engines, and even better with troubled kids who needed something to focus on. The feds got their success stories. Communities got resources, and the Hells Angels got something they'd never had before: respect that didn't come from fear. But none of it would have happened without Ridgeville, without a 76-year-old woman who chose forgiveness over fury, without a son who came home and learned that strength wasn't just about how hard you could hit it, was about knowing when not to. A year after the diner opened, Diesel rode back to Ridgeville for the anniversary celebration. The town had thrown a festival, music, food, people everywhere. Ethel's table was the center of it all. He found his mama on the porch of the diner watching the celebration with a small smile. "Happy anniversary, Mama. Can you believe it's been a year? Feels like yesterday. Feels like forever." "Both. Always both." Ethel took his hand. "I got something to tell you." His chest tightened. "You okay? Are you sick?" No, nothing like that. I'm retiring. From the diner. Rose is gonna buy me out, run the place herself." "Mama, why?" "Because I'm 77 years old and I'm tired, and because I did what I set out to do. I proved grace works. Now it's time to let other people carry it forward." "What are you gonna do?" Ethel's eyes sparkled. "Travel. Visit you in Charleston. Spoil whatever grandkids you eventually give me. Live." Diesel laughed. "Grandkids, Mama. I'm 49 and single." "Details. You'll figure it out." She squeezed his hand. "I'm proud of you, Marcus, of the man you've become, of the work you're doing. I learned from the best." They sat together watching the festival, watching people dance and eat and laugh, watching black and white and young and old all mixed together, all celebrating, not what divided them, but what they'd built together. A little girl ran up, not Lily, but someone else's daughter, and handed Ethel a flower. "Thank you for the pancakes, Miss Ethel." "You're welcome, baby. You come back anytime." The girl ran off. Ethel held the flower, turning it in her fingers. "You know what I think?" she said softly. "What's that?" "I think we get glimpses, little moments where everything's right and good and the way it should be. And those moments don't last, can't last. The world's too broken for that. But they're real, and they're enough to keep us going, to keep us believing that maybe, just maybe, grace is stronger than hate. Is it stronger? Ask me in another year, another decade. Ask me when I'm standing before God and looking back on everything." Ethel smiled. "But today, right now? Yeah, I think it is." The music swelled. Someone had started a conga line. Darius grabbed Diesel's arm, trying to pull him in. "Come on, old man, loosen up." "Old man, I could still kick your—" "Marcus," his mama said, her voice carrying that warning tone he'd known his whole life. "I could still respectfully decline your challenge," Diesel corrected, grinning. "Better." Ethel stood up, smoothing her dress. "Now help your mama down these steps. If we're celebrating, we're doing it right." They joined the conga line, a Hells Angels president and his 77-year-old mother dancing in the street with a town that had every reason to stay broken, but chose to heal instead. Somewhere in the crowd, a phone was recording. By tomorrow, the video would have 1 million views. People would share it, argue about it, analyze it. They'd miss the point, probably. Most people did. But Diesel didn't care about that anymore. He wasn't performing for cameras or living for other people's approval. He was just here in this moment with his mama and his community and the life he'd almost thrown away. The song ended. A new one started. Ethel laughed as Pastor Reynolds spun her in a circle, both of them moving slower than they used to, but with just as much joy. Diesel felt his phone buzz. A text from Tommy. "Another city wants a program. Louisville this time. When can you meet with them?" He'd answer later. Right now he was exactly where he needed to be. A hand touched his shoulder. He turned to see Samantha Lilly beside her. "Thank you," Samantha said simply. "For everything. For not being who you came here to be." "Thank your mama," Diesel said, nodding toward Ethel. She's the one who changed everything. No, she just showed us what was already possible. You're the one who chose it. Lily hugged his leg. Are you coming to my birthday party next month? Wouldn't miss it, kid. They walked away, rejoining the crowd. Diesel watched them go, a woman who'd made a terrible mistake and was building a new life anyway, a daughter who'd never have to carry her mother's shame. That's what Grace did. It cut chains. It opened futures. It turned endings into beginnings. The festival went late into the night. When it finally ended and everyone had gone home, Diesel helped clean up. They swept the street, broke down tables, turned off the lights. His mama's house was quiet when they finally made it back. She made tea, even though they were both exhausted. I'm coming to Charleston next month, she announced. Gonna see these community centers everyone's talking about. You don't have to. I want to. I want to see what we started, where it's going, how many lives it's touching. It's not fancy, Mama. It's just programs. Just work. Just work, Ethel repeated. Baby, there's no such thing as just work when that work is changing lives. Every young man you help that's a family that don't have to bury their son. Every job you find someone that's a community getting stronger. Don't you dare diminish what you're doing. Yes, ma'am. They drank their tea in comfortable silence. Then Ethel spoke again, her voice soft. You know what your daddy used to say? Tell me. He said the world breaks everyone, and afterward, some are strong at the broken places. Hemingway. Your daddy didn't know that. He just knew it was true. Ethel set down her cup. You were broken when you left here 5 years ago. Angry, hurt, lost. But you healed at the broken place. You came back stronger. Because of you. Because you let yourself. That's the hard part. Anyone can stay broken. It's easy. It's comfortable. Letting yourself heal, letting grace do its work, that takes real courage. Diesel thought about all the men in his programs. The ones who showed up every day, trying to learn a trade, trying to stay clean, trying to believe there was a different way. Some would make it, some wouldn't. But they were all trying, and that was what mattered. Mama, do you really think we can change things? Like really change them? One person at a time. One choice at a time. One moment of grace at a time. Ethel stood up, her joints creaking. We can't fix everything, but we can fix something. And something's better than nothing. She kissed his forehead like he was still a little boy, told him she loved him, and went to bed. Diesel sat on the porch until dawn started breaking. He thought about the road that had led him here, from a kid in this house, to a man in prison, to a chapter president, to someone building something instead of breaking it. He thought about the woman who'd slapped his mama and how rage would have solved nothing, about the men who'd burned the diner and how violence only multiplied pain, about every moment he'd wanted to hit first and ask questions never, and how his mama's voice had stopped him. Grace wasn't natural. It wasn't easy. It required you to fight every instinct to choose the harder path, to believe in something you couldn't prove. But it worked. He'd seen it work. Was watching it work every day in Charleston, in Atlanta, in Memphis, in all the places where broken men were learning to be whole again. His phone buzzed. A message from a brother in the Louisville chapter. We're in. Want to start our own program. When can you come teach us how? Diesel smiled and typed back. Soon. But first talk to my mama. She's the one who really knows how this works. The sun climbed higher. Somewhere in town, Rosa was opening the diner for the breakfast shift. Somewhere in Tennessee, Samantha was getting Lily ready for school. Somewhere in Charleston, young men were showing up at the community center, hoping today would be the day everything changed. And in this house in Ridgeville, Georgia, a 77-year-old woman slept peacefully, having proven that forgiveness wasn't just a nice idea or a religious platitude. It was a revolution, quiet, personal, and absolutely unstoppable. Diesel stood up, stretched, looked at the rising sun painting the sky pink and orange. He had work to do, programs to run, communities to serve, lives to help rebuild. But first he was going to make his mama breakfast. Pancakes, probably. She'd taught him how back when he was a kid, before everything went wrong and then miraculously right again. Because that's what Grace did. It took the broken pieces and built something new. Not perfect. Never perfect. But real. And strong. And lasting. And that was enough.